Welcome and thank you all for being here. My name is Josh Twining. I'm the project officer for the Dragons in the Hills, and I'll be leading tonight's session. Tonight is the first in a series of autumn seminars brought to you by the Amphibian and Reptile Group UK. I'm really excited about this evening. We've had over 80 people sign up. We've got 45 people in the session so far, where we're going to be talking all about our ongoing Heritage Lottery funded project, Dragons in the Hills. So we're a community-based, people-powered project working to conserve reptiles and amphibians in Northern Ireland. As such, you won't just be hearing from myself, but you'll be hearing from our various stakeholders tonight, from our funders and organisers, to our various partners, volunteers and members of the local community that we've been working with. It's really important to us that the local communities have a voice and can guide the direction of our work, and that's in part what tonight is about. So just a little bit of housekeeping for you before we get underway. We'd usually like to run these sorts of events in person, but obviously given the special circumstances of COVID-19, we're adapting to it and running these through Zoom. We welcome questions from all of the participants throughout the talk, and if you have any, please use the Q&A function that you can find on the bottom left-hand side of your screen. We're really lucky tonight to have numerous very knowledgeable and experienced people who are close to the project on hand, who will be able to answer your questions throughout the talk. So we're going to start off with some brief introductions, and then I'm going to give a 30-minute talk all about the project, and then we're going to end this evening with contributions from various members and stakeholders. And there'll be time at the very end for audience members to put up their hand and ask questions to the panelists or myself, and so we can discuss them. So to kick us off, I'd like to introduce Darren Rice, the Northern Ireland Committee member for the National Lottery Heritage Fund, who's going to talk a little bit about the Dragons in the Hills project and why they decided to fund us. Welcome, Darren.
Thank you very much, Josh, and good evening, everyone. So yes, as Josh says, my name is Darren Rice, for those who I haven't met before, and I'm representing the Northern Ireland Committee for National Lottery Heritage Fund. So I was thrilled to be asked to speak at this event because I also work in these A&B and Aspiring Geopark, where Dragons in the Hills is being delivered. So I know firsthand how much it means to our communities here. The National Lottery Fund are supporting this project, aiming to conserve some of our priority wildlife species through community action. We are delighted to be able to support this exciting new project and the partnership between Newry and Down District Council, Amphibian and Reptile Groups of the UK and the Herpetological Society of Ireland. So based in the three A&B, Dragons in the Hills was awarded £100,000 from National Lottery Heritage Fund to find out more about Northern Ireland's three native amphibians and reptiles. So this project aims to improve our knowledge of the amphibians and reptiles in the area by mapping their distribution and by encouraging land managers to create and connect important habitat features. So Dragons in the Hills has and will continue to work closely with communities living in this ancient landscape, including the volcanic Ring of Gullion, the Wildmoor Mountains, and the rolling hills of Strangford and Loch A&Bs. So we, the National Lottery Heritage Fund, are very supportive of this fascinating heritage project that seeks to draw out the wonderful world of amphibians and reptiles in Northern Ireland. The committee were particularly struck by the weaving together of our love of stories, myths and legends with our love of nature. So we have wonderful native wildlife, and its conservation depends on community support and active participation this project is going to develop. So we believe this project is a very worthwhile endeavour that will encourage local people from school children to adults to actively engage and learn. So later Josh will tell you all that's happened so far, but I just want to highlight the impressive approach the project staff and partners have taken to the impact of COVID and the lockdown. So this goes a long way to pilot how projects can be delivered if further lockdowns are called. So Josh has now delivered a series of 3 one-hour virtual sessions with 6 primary schools in the Ring of Gullion and has received excellent feedback. Paula and Ciara, I'm sure, will talk about this later. Socially distanced face-to-face training has also taken place. and this welcomed 14 adults and 6 children to the reptile ramble and some pond dipping. So this proactive approach has laid the groundwork for more workshops and activities starting this month. The National Lottery Heritage Fund are confident that the project targets will be delivered, an impressive achievement given how quickly change was forced upon us all back in March and April. So I'll leave you with this parting note. So the National Lottery Heritage Fund has radically simplified the funding portfolio. There's now a single grant programme, National Lottery Grants for Heritage, from 3,000 to 5 million for all types of heritage. Application forms are shorter and clearer. Decisions for projects up to 250,000 are much quicker. And help and advice are still an offer from the development team. So you can contact them through the website, email, phone or social media, or you can question and answer me here for contact details later. And if you're thinking about applying, make sure you get in touch and take the help and offer. The staff are great and have been instrumental in getting applications across the line in this area, and I've used them before for our own applications, and they're a really great team. So a new range of digital guidance and resources has also been added to the new website, and it will be continued added to enhanced. So do tell us and the National Lottery staff what you find most helpful. So I'll be finished by saying thank you everyone coming along today to this event and taking part in the project. It is you that makes these projects a success. I hope everyone has a good time and enjoys the talks and getting involved more in the project in the next couple of years. It is truly fantastic to see the successes of such a wonderful project in this district. I look forward to hearing what is coming in the future, so thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dan. That was a beautiful introduction. We're now going to move on to a few words from Therese Hamill, who works for Newry Mourne and Down Council and was really key in conceptualising and organising this project. So over to you, Therese.
Okay, I think, Josh, do you have to let me share screen?
Yeah, there you go. I can make you a host now.
Okay, I think, let me see. Oh yeah, thank you. Thanks very much. So my name is Therese Hamill and I represent Newry Mourne and Down District Council on the Dragons in the Hills steering group. So I'm just going to take you through some of the background to the development of the project. So Newry Mourne and Down District Council manage 2 of the 8 AOMBs across Northern Ireland. So they are the Ring of Gullion and Strangford and Lecale. There's actually no national parks in Northern Ireland, and we do have a number of special areas of conservation across the district. And we're also an inspiring UNESCO Global Geopark. So we're quite a small team, so it's made up of myself and Judith as the AOMB and Geopark officers, Darren, our manager, which you've just met, and Sue, our admin officer. So we're funded through Newry Mourne and Down District Council, ARG and North Down Borough Council and the Northern Ireland Environment Agency. So as the team is small, we try to make the most of our partnerships and use our stakeholders to develop projects and get them up and running. So my role is focused on the delivery of the Ring of Gullion AOMB Management Action Plan, which provides the framework for all our stakeholders to work together to protect and provide for the enjoyment of the landscape of the AOMB. So the objectives of the plan include retaining the landscape character and the natural, built and cultural heritage of the area. So success relies on all of those who live, work, plan for and develop and manage the area. As well as our current funding, we've just finished our Ring of Gullion Landscape Partnership Scheme, which has ran for 5 years and provided us with a great legacy to platform projects such as the Dragons and the Hills project. So we need to go back before we can go forward. So you may wonder what squirrels have to do with lizards, newts and frogs, except maybe to eat them sometimes. But it tends to be in Northern Ireland, people can wear a number of hats. So it was through the Northern Ireland Red Squirrel Forum in 2014-15, I met Dave Tosh for the first time. So that's the chap in the blue, kneeling down. So The Ring of Gullion had a red squirrel group, but we had little information on the distribution in the area, which needed to inform our conservation interventions. So Dave was looking for volunteers to carry out red squirrel surveys to feed into the information across Northern Ireland. So I asked, would he come to the Ring of Gullion and provide a workshop? And then we never let him leave. So basically, over the years, we've developed, through that initial engagement, a number of partnership projects to build the knowledge and learning across around red squirrels and pine martens. And we've put in a number of small funding applications with the red squirrel group for training courses, nest boxes and camera equipment. So you could say, like, over the last few years, Dave had got to know the landscape and our volunteers very well. So that will come into evidence over the next slide. So as well as that, we were also hosting a number of pond dipping days as part of our Lunacy Festival every August, where we compared the findings in our man-made pond on the left-hand side in Slieve Gullion Forest Park, and a natural pond on the right picture on the right-hand side up further up the mountain. So Slieve Gullion Mountain is a special area of conservation, so it's one of the highest designation based on the dry heat on the mountain. So this event was always filled up really quickly, so it was very popular. So we knew that we had newts in the pond, and we knew that the community wanted to engage in these sort of projects. So then Dave comes in again, so in his new role in 2017-18, working for CEDAR, he was organising lizard surveys across Northern Ireland, and Slieve Gullion was picked as a survey site because it has ideal habitat for lizards. So this is where Rob from Irish Herb Society came in. So he was put in touch with me as the local contact, and Rob kindly sent me his findings of lizards on Slieve Gullion. So of course I wanted to make the most of this. So we wanted to see how we could engage with the local people, and also our forest, Slieve Gullion Forest Park, would receive visitors up to 300,000 a year. So we wanted to make the most of how we could engage with these visitors. So we engaged with the tourist department in the council, and they provided a bit of budget for us to put on a 2-day event in 2019, where we were focusing on the newts, frogs and lizards, and we used a combination of art, wildlife walks and pond dipping demos. So this is where we met Angie. So she came along, she travelled over and she provided some of the workshops. So over the course of the weekend, the Seeds of the Dragons of the Hills project was founded, and we expanded the project over the whole of the district area over the next 3 years, as we worked up the application in the coming months after it. So this is a very quick presentation, but I just wanted to give you, just to leave you with a few insights into the development of the project. So working on using the AOMB plan, we have our vision and we know the sort of projects that we want to achieve, and we know what we're trying to aim towards. But I think sometimes as well, you have to be flexible enough that if a partner comes along and you share the same vision, that you can work together to come up with ideas and share knowledge as well, and know your area and know your community and what they will and won't get involved with. I think it's very important, because they are the ones that are going to be the key resource to deliver the project, and I'm sure Josh has learned that over the last few months delivering the project. So build your partnerships as well. Networking it's so important, and I know, like, I'd be quite shy, so it's not really something I like putting myself forward to, but they're so vital. You never know what other people's interests are and the connections to have So like I always try, if we do have stakeholders coming to the area, to maybe provide a survey. I'd always say, oh, like maybe, you know, could you provide a workshop about the findings, or maybe next time, what do you think of this? So you're building every time with your partners, and you're building up that relationship. So you can see, you know, it's taken a long time to build this project, but we had the foundations then because we were engaging with the community, we were engaging with different stakeholders. But you know, like I think that's sort of built this project over. I think that's one of the things that's helped us overcome the COVID issue, is because we've had the people there on the ground. We've already engaged with them over the years. And people knew where we were coming from. And don't be afraid to ask, you know, it's always worth asking, like, can stakeholders get more involved in projects, or what do you think of like this idea of a project? As well as that, don't give up, because I know like it can be very frustrating applying for little pots of funding here and there every year, and usually not with a lot of time to deliver them. But sometimes they're not successful. But take heart in the fact that you're building up the foundations in your area, pulling together your tribe and working together to achieve something important. It's the no's that help us to learn and to grow. So I'd just like to say a massive thank you to Dave for giving us the initial contacts and to keep with us. And he does put a lot of work in the area boundary on the squirrels and the lizards as well. So thank you very much. And for Rob for finding the lizards in the first place, and Andy for leading on writing the application, and for taking the initiative to bring this project to this area. Without any of you, it wouldn't have been possible. And I also like to thank Josh as well, and say a big well done for delivering the project over the last few months. So it could have been very damaging to the start of the project and very stressful, but Josh's enthusiasm and hard work has been amazing, and I've loved seeing the ways he's come up with to engage with the local community. Thank you very much to the other steering group members, and I'm looking forward to working with the project over the next 3 years. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Therese. That was wonderful. All right. Therese, would you be able to... Oh, there we go. Lovely. So now we're going to kick off with a little talk from myself. 1 moment, sorry. So, thank you to Darren and Therese for the introductions and setting the scene for this evening. And a massive thank you to our funders, the National Heritage Lottery. This project would not be happening without your support, so a deep heartfelt thank you from all of us. Our work, as you've heard, is based around engaging with local communities to conserve reptiles and amphibians. So before we get started, we've already heard from Therese and Damon, but I just want to introduce you to the amazing team behind the project. This project is a big collaborative work between multiple partners and groups, and we would not be where we are right now without this team pushing and guiding the project. So we have Darren Rice and Therese Hamill from Newry Down Council, who along with Angela Julian from ARG UK were really the driving force behind conceptualising the project. Therese and Darren provide the project with continuous on-the-ground assistance and logistical support that we just couldn't function without. So on the right of your screen, you'll see our partners from ARG UK with decades of experience and knowledge from working conserving reptiles and amphibians is truly invaluable. And last but not least, we have Romper Gondola from Herpetological Society Ireland and Ryan Boyle, the chair of ARG Northern Ireland. These two really provide on-the-ground assistance, and their experience working in Ireland with reptiles and amphibians and their passion and knowledge has not only been an inspiration to me, but serves as a key support in everything we do. So we'll hear from most of our partners over the course of the seminar tonight, and as always, I welcome and appreciate their inputs that make this project and its successes possible. So our vision. The Dragons in the Hills, is a 3-year Heritage Lottery funded project. We're a people-powered project working with local communities to try and restore a sense of wonder of the natural history around them. We want to reconnect these local communities with their natural landscapes through the conservation of reptiles and amphibians. And our plan for the project is to spend a year in each one of our areas of outstanding natural beauty, working with these local communities to conserve native wildlife through various events and workshops with a focus on our native reptiles and amphibians. We aim to work with all different spectrums of our local communities, from children's in school groups to adult volunteers, with a special focus on disenfranchised members of communities, whether they might be elderly people or adults with learning disabilities or any other of the varied facets of societies that we're based within. It's important to us to have input and guidance from our local communities, and I'm really looking forward later on tonight to hearing from some of the people we've been working with. So this project, as you've heard, really started at the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic, and as such we've had to change and temper our plans in the interim to ensure the safety of our volunteers and participants. We've made great progress despite the current conditions, and I really have great hopes for the future of the project. So in Northern Ireland, we have quite a truncated reptile and amphibian community. We have just 3 species. We've got our 2 species of amphibian, the common frog and the smooth newt, and we've got our 1 species of reptile, the common or viviparous lizard. And as you'll see throughout the course of this talk, that despite only having 3 species of native herp in the north of Ireland, we know so little about their ecology, their distribution, and how they're persisting in the face of anthropogenic pressures of a constantly changing world. The key aim of this project is to use citizen scientists, members of the public, trained in survey techniques to try and help us start building a better picture of how our native animals are faring, the threats they face today, and then taking active steps in their conservation and preserving their presence for future generations to come. So, as you've heard, our project is based in 3 areas of outstanding natural beauty in Northern Ireland: the Ring of Gullion, the Mourns, and Strangford Lough and Lough. Areas of natural beauty are areas of the countryside in the UK that have been designated for conservation due to their significant landscape value. In Northern Ireland, this designation is decided by the Northern Ireland Environment Agency, and I'm now going to briefly introduce you to our 3 focal areas in the southeast of Northern Ireland. So the Ring of Gullion is our first area of natural beauty, and it's where we've been focusing our efforts in the first year. It's a unique volcanic ring dike situated in South Armagh. The rocks that form this area date back to the Silurian approximately 440 million years ago, but the Ring of Gullion itself, a circular ring formation of hills that can be seen from satellites hundreds of kilometers in space, are around 60 million years old. There's some dispute to the cause of the formation. Much like the dinosaurs, the leading theory is that the Ring of Gullion is the result of ancient volcano collapsing. The remaining heart of this volcano that survives today was the first volcanic ring dike ever mapped. Slieve Gullion, a 573-meter mountain, sits at the center of the Ring of Gullion. And Slieve Gullion is steeped in history, myth, and legend. The cairn atop the summit, or the Caliabera's house, is the highest surviving passage tomb in Ireland and dates back to the Bronze Age. And standing atop the summit and looking out over the Ring of Gullion and the surrounding drumlins, you get lost in wonder in the history and geology and ecology of this place and what has come before. On a personal note, the Ring of Gullion is one of my favourite locations in Ireland. I've been privileged to spend more than 5 years working in the area, and I've been truly fortunate to spend such time amongst the wonders of this landscape, the charm of its wildlife, and the kindness of its local communities. The Mourns is another area I've been lucky to have worked quite extensively in over the last half decade. We'll be focusing in the Mourns in year 2, and they are some of the wildest and most wondrous landscapes present in Northern Ireland. They're situated to the east of the Ring of Gullion in County Down, and they're formed of a compact series of 12 mountains, with each peak raising over 600 metres. And the highest, Slieve Donard, being the highest mountain in Northern Ireland, its summit sitting at 853 metres. The unique range hugs the coastline of County Down, and it's split into 2 distinct districts, the Eastern High Mourns and the Western Lone Moors, which are home to an amazing array of diverse habitats. And one of the most distinctive features of the Mourns is the Mourne Wall, a 35-kilometre stone wall which follows the rising and falling ascent of the range over 15 of its highest peaks. This wall is a remarkable feat. Built between 1904 and 1922, it really is synonymous with the Mourne Mountains. And finally, our last area of natural beauty is one, although I've spent a significant amount of time in, I and the scientific recording community appear to remain the least familiar with. It contains the least recording information of our native herps, as you'll see in a slide or two. And I'm really excited to work here in year 3, when we start focusing here more intensely because of the discoveries we have and the opportunities we have to make. This area is a coastal area of outstanding natural beauty and is formed of diverse and varied landscapes. The AONB here follows the shores of the nearly landlocked inland sea that is Strangford Lough and extends inland along the Coyle River. The Drumlin hilltops that poke from the sea, forming hundreds of the islets of Strangford Lough, are symbolic of the area and tell the story of its glacial past and formation. Perhaps nowhere else in Northern Ireland is the contrast and interplay between land and sea both so evident and breathtaking. So that's enough of maps and me talking. I now want to take you on quite a special virtual tour of our 3 focal areas. I've got no doubt there'll be some technical difficulties, so if one of the panelists could unmute if this video doesn't work or if the audio doesn't work. I just want to say this video is only possible thanks to the kindness and support of some incredible people. So I want to say a huge thank you to Matthew Magilton from Agape Nature, which is a pioneering media company that will be soon releasing its first content, and an extra special thank you to Colleen Savage and Padraig Caraher for providing me with the backing music, an extra special taste of the talent, artistry and culture found within the local communities of our project. I hope you enjoy this as much as I enjoyed creating it.
The crowded streets of Brooklyn seem a long way from my home. The people rushing onward, going to and coming from. You bid them time of day and they look the other way, and so you end up just like them and talk to no one. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've traveled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in my dreams. The view from my apartment is a junkie's alleyway. My children speak in accents not like mine. My old man's working 2 jobs. I don't see him much these days, and we'd be happy if we only had the time. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, and where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've travelled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in my dreams. I hear the hills are occupied by strangers now, and the work keeps getting scarcer every day. It's a hard life when you're forced from home to leave the place you love. Oh, it's a hard life when you're forced to live this way. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've travelled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in my dreams.
So, we've big dreams for this project, but how do we hope to achieve them? We have been and we plan to continue running a diverse series of workshops and public events that appeal to all facets of our local communities that wish to engage further with their natural world. Nature is all-encompassing. It provides everything as humans we need, and yet in the modern world, we are more disconnected from it than ever. For the intrigued, we will run guided walks and rambles, planned tours and routes along some of the most iconic and beautiful parts of these landscapes, as to provide people with a glimpse of the spectacular habitats and natural features that they live locally to, with an added swirl of natural history to rekindle their wonder of the natural world around them. For landowners wishing to conserve and support native biodiversity, we run community-led habitat creation schemes, and this involves creating or improving natural habitats that will benefit not only our native herbs, but all forms of biodiversity. It's really important to our ambitions that we engage with all the varied groups that exist within our communities. So to achieve this, we are working with local schools, artists, and varied community groups on a variety of projects that introduce and explore the natural world in unique and creative ways. Finally, a big aim of this project is to establish citizen science monitoring schemes, as we mentioned earlier, in each of our localities. To achieve this, and this is really for the passionate and engaged, we run citizen science training days, and we use these days to equip our volunteers with the basic tools and information needed to get out surveying for their native herbs and start gathering the much needed baseline data on the occurrence of our 3 species throughout the areas of outstanding natural beauty. So guided walks and tours. Why? Well, our guided walk serves as an introduction to getting people outside and reconnecting them with their local landscapes. I read recently in the Robertson 2020 report that 3/4 of children spend less time outdoors than the average prison inmate. Such statistics likely do not just apply to the youth and are a strong representation of our modern disconnect with nature and the outside world. With more than half of the global population living in cities, with all these wondrous technologies of laptops and televisions and iPhones at our fingertips, it's really easy to forget the importance and splendour of the natural world around us. There's a metric known as the global disease burden, and mental illnesses were recently reported as growing to the same level of damages to human populations as cardiovascular and circulatory diseases. And with more and more empirical evidence demonstrating the benefits of nature and nature immersion to our mental health, we hope by taking people on these guided walks of all experiences and backgrounds and interests, that we won't only help rekindle their love of the natural landscapes, but also assist in reconnecting them with its abilities to help restore and look after us. So our guided walks are one of our most common forms of events we've been running. We tailor them to all different levels of experience, from weedanders around the smaller hills of the Ring of Gullion to big hikes to the highest peaks of the Mournes. While on our walk, we do our best to share information on the present site and its biodiversity. We guide people to our favourite viewing locations, to take a moment to take in the beauty of landscapes around them. And when we are lucky enough to, we try to help participants in getting to observe some of their native wildlife going about their varied daily lives. To date, we've led over 7 guided walks on the various hills around the Ring of Gullion and up Slieve Gullion itself. Due to COVID, we've been limiting the number of places on our walks. But in a way, I actually think this makes the experiences slightly better, more intimate. We have more time to talk to each other and the attendees more personally. And we also increase our chances of spotting wildlife while we're out walking. One of my favourite parts of these guided walks is being able to show people some things they haven't experienced before. On our most recent walk, we went up to Camler Mountain, and we had some participants with us who, at the beginning of the walk, were sceptical at the presence of common lizards in the area. Being local, and despite being avid walkers, they'd not in their life seen one. And by the end of the day, we'd enjoyed as a group sightings of 6 lizards, and also had the opportunity to show them multiple newt efts. It's always a pleasure to get to see the enjoyment that people get from such experiences. So our citizen science surveying. So as we mentioned earlier, despite only having 3 species of amphibian and reptile in Northern Ireland, we have so little data on their information on the distribution or population trends. To show this, I produced this little map. And so this shows you all records from the last 50 years on both smooth newts in green and common lizards in pink. And you'll see from this map, the records are almost not quite non-existent, but they're extremely rare in the whole lot of the last 50 years. So we only have 3 spatially independent newt records from all of Strangford Loch and Lochel, and no common lizards. We have 10, the Mournes is doing the best, and we have 10 newt records and 16 lizards. And finally, in the Ring of Gullion, we have 5 independent newt records and just 1 spatially independent lizard record. So over the last 50 years, there were 35 spatially independent records in total. This is almost no information to form any basis or evidence for population trends or habitat suitability or how these species are faring. So to tackle this, and the big ambition here is to establish small active citizen science volunteer teams in each study area. To achieve this, we run half-day training sessions that are open to everyone interested. And we start with a brief introduction to our native species, where you can find them, how you might go about sampling them, and the legislation surrounding them being protected species. We then begin with short tours of whatever sites we might be at. So for example, the photos you can see here are largely from Bluebell Lane Glamping, a really magical spot in South Armagh. Under special TSA licenses, we then do some pond netting, and we'll identify and show how you age and sex the different species we come across, usually smooth newts. And we finish with a guided lizard survey, a slow and gradual walk where we really try and put emphasis on the fact that the real key to surveying for lizards is to slow things down, to take your time, to notice the things around you, and just take everything in. There's no magic secret, as everybody is different when it comes to how they interact and observe the world around them. It's all about taking a while and a good bit of dedication to get your eye in. But we've been really lucky on the last few training days, And we had what I call the Northern Irish full house, so all 3 species, which is always a very special and perfect introduction for our volunteers. So the impact of this so far, so we've run 3 citizen science training days to date, and from these, although we've been limited in numbers, they have been well attended, and they seem to have been thoroughly enjoyed. And since then, our citizen scientists have logged over 250 volunteer hours and produced more than 100 new records for both lizards and smooth newts. So this is more than triple the number of independent records produced in the last 3 years, in the last 50 years, sorry, in just a few months from our focal areas. And so what we really hope is that this data will be able to produce a baseline for the species and how they're faring in Northern Ireland today. And with continued monitoring over the years, we'll be able to get an insight into the species populations trends, threats, and the priority habitats that are in desperate need of protection. Habitat loss is one of the greatest threats to global biodiversity, and it's no different for our native herps here in Northern Ireland. We've lost over 90% of our lowland bog and 75% of our upland bog, the prime habitats for both smooth newts and lizards. In a period of just 5 years, we lost 20% of our wet heath and almost 30% of our dry heath. The drivers of this change are numerous, from afforestation schemes which focus on planting up upland areas with non-native Sitka spruce, overgrazing by sheep primarily, and also peat cutting, for peat being used as fuel and soil and fertilizer and other uses. We have no data on what effect this has had on our reptiles and amphibians. But when you consider such habitat loss combined with the fragmentation of surviving populations, it does not give a very good outlook. We must take steps to create and preserve habitats that support our native biodiversity. So we've been working on habitat creation schemes, and our habitat creation has 2 main focuses. We're looking at freshwater habitats, the creation of ponds, and also microhabitat creation, providing resting spots, shelters, and hibernaculum for our newts and lizards. While we've lost a huge amount of our natural habitats, some really incredible work by the Irish Wildlife Trusts in the Republic demonstrated that newts seem to be adapting very well to certain man-made habitats, ponds and quarries. So we therefore encourage and assist with the creation of new freshwater habitats where landowners are keen and susceptible. During the project, we've noticed that our native herps appear to be adapting to a number of quite unique and strange, unexpected man-made habitats, with volunteers reporting species in some unexpected places, from the fire dams of spruce plantations to the garages of their houses, to name but a few. The species are likely seeking shelter in these unexpected places, and this brings us to the second focus of our habitat creation scheme, microhabitat creation. So in response to this, we've been focusing more recently on microhabitat creation. So just this month, we were working with Bluebell Glamping Lane. We ran a small project where we upcycled discarded deadwood from a locally clearfelled plantation, and we created a variety of hibernation spots, and basking spots around the site. And we have plans for this year with 3 other project partners in the Ring of Gullion. A great benefit of this work is not only the habitats and resources we provide to our native species, but the bonds and community building that can come through the work. By working together to do difficult tasks and revisit sites over time, surveying them, we hope that volunteers will develop lasting relationships and connections with these natural spaces, and to get to see the benefits of their work. So we're currently working in partnership with 4 landowners in the Ring of Gullion. The first is Podrick Caraher. You were going to hear his beautiful guitar playing skills earlier, and I hope you will soon, once we get over these technical difficulties. But you'll have seen a lot of photos in this presentation are actually from the beautiful Bluebell Lane. Bluebell is a really special spot to me. In between Slieve Gullion and the surrounding hills, the site is traditional farmland that has been recently replanted with native Irish woodland and has been returned to nature. If you're local to the area and you haven't visited, I'd strongly recommend it. The views, the stay, the biodiversity of the area are just extraordinary. Derrymore House is another one of our partners. It's a National Trust property in Bessbrook in Armagh. It's a wooded estate maintained in its image that its 18th century designer had. We've developed a partnership with both Derrymore and logistical support from Mount Stewart, and we're working on establishing a series of new ponds, as well as some more hybernaculum around them. So we plan to work with local volunteer groups in the area to establish these new freshwater bodies, and also develop them and survey them and monitor them over time. Our other two project partners at the moment, so Antobar is another really special site situated in the Ring of Gullion, owned by Margaret and Kathleen Finnegan of Silverbridge's Finnegan's Nursery. This is another site where local people are returning traditional farmland back to nature, planting up the site with native woodland and allowing the uplands to flourish and thrive. The site contains multiple protected habitats, from purple Russian moorland to some really diverse dry heath. I've recently worked with both Kathleen and Margaret, and we've submitted an application to the John Muir Award to enable the volunteers we're working with there, adults with learning disabilities, to gain this prestigious John Muir Award while undertaking planned habitat creation of the site and learning new practical skills involving surveying for biodiversity and monitoring the sites over time. And then last but not least, with the Clanrye group based in Slieve Gullion itself, we plan to work with the volunteer groups here to again establish basking spots, resting spots around the central pond at the base of Slieve Gullion, and also a number of fire dams where we've been surprisingly recording good numbers of smooth newts, despite them lacking in many of the features we assume to be key to their persistence. I want to say a huge thank you to our project partners who we've been working with and we have plans to work with in the future. We're really excited to move forward with these plans and really get stuck into them when the sampling season comes to an end in autumn. So a really important part of this work is community outreach. We want to work with young members of our community and disenfranchised groups. And we've been doing this through a number of ways, which of course has had to be updated during the COVID lockdown. So initial plans where I dreamt of going to schools, or even better, taking schools out of the classroom and getting them into the field and getting them immersed in nature themselves, have had to be put on hold for obvious reasons. But so in the interim, we've prepared a series of 3 one-hour talks, which we've given to over 6 schools in a local area. So the talk series was entitled Biodiversity and Nature Around Us. And we had 3 different talks focused on our place in nature and connectedness to nature, habitats and their conservation, and then a focus talk on reptiles and amphibians, because of course these talks seem to be well received and were enjoyed, and I had a really fantastic time. Many enjoyable and surprising conversations with the children and the groups, spurred on by the weird and wonderful questions you always get when working with school groups. I'm really looking forward to the future where we can take the school kids out of the classroom and into the field and introduce them to the various forms of biodiversity surveying and life, and get them back into their natural landscapes. So we also try to make what we do more accessible to larger audiences. So we're working with a number of artists to produce pieces that are connected to the project and bring the species and habitats to life through human creativity. I imagine the audio is not going to work, but I'm going to play this video anyway. So this is one of my favorite pieces of artwork that's been created to the project, and I'm just going to talk over it while it goes on. So this was produced by Mabel Harris, and you can get to watch its creation. Oh, sorry. So our first step in the beginning of the project was to produce an ID guide. And so with the help of graphics designer Danny Green, we successfully produced the guide you can see a few pages of here, with beautiful images supplied kindly by various ARG members, which we now distribute freely at all of our public events. And I'm really excited that we're currently working with Irish speakers in the local community to translate this guide and for the project to be able to provide multiple language options for the guides, both in English and Irish. We hope to develop the ideas based around arts and creativity in the future. We plan to run art competitions with schools, with all pieces displayed together at annual events and roundups. An idea I'm really excited for and can take no credit for whatsoever is for making art with nature days. So this idea was suggested by a fantastic local artist, Keelan O'Hanlon, and the plan is to take community groups and schools out into nature, into their natural landscapes, and task them with making art from only natural products they can find. Think sticks and leaves, natural paints and dyes from berries and fruits and flowers. And I'm really, really excited about seeing this come to fruition in the future when conditions allow for it. Oh. So I eagerly look forward to the future, to developing the projects we've discussed here today, and to establishing long-lasting bonds and groups within these communities that will care for the amphibians and reptiles and their natural habitats long, long after the project comes to a close. I'm always keen for new creative ideas, new ways to engage members of society and reach new people. So please, no one ever be shy. I'm always open to conversation. So if anyone's ever got any thoughts, any ways we can reach new people, any quirky ideas for events, do get in touch and let's get talking. So finally, just want to end this talk with a really deep, heartfelt thank you to all our volunteers. We really are a people-powered project. The volunteers are the driving force behind everything we do, and you continue to amaze and inspire me on every outing. So thank you. That brings us to the end of this talk on the Dragons in the Hills project. I'm now going to be delighted to invite various partners and panelists to speak about what the project means to them, or how they can see us developing ideas in the future, or their personal take and spin on the Dragons in the Hills. So let me get out of this. And I'm going to first pass you over to Rob Gondola. While I do that, I'm going to try and sort out our technical difficulties and see if I can get this video working, because I spent far too many hours on it and there was far too much great will put into it. So Rob, I'm going to spotlight on you, my friend, and pass over.
Good evening, everybody. So I'm Rob Gondola. I represent the Herpetological Society of Ireland. And as Therese already detailed, our involvement in Northern Ireland and with this project essentially began back in 2018 with a collaboration with CEDAR and Museums Northern Ireland and ARG's UK, where we gave some training events to local biodiversity and heritage officers. And then we did a couple of open weekends, and essentially it kind of went from there. We did some very specific surveys throughout the 3 focal areas of the Dragon in the Hills projects before the project ideas even came up. And essentially, from an Irish perspective, Northern Ireland should be, well, at least we feel, one of the strongholds for our native herps. It's still quite rural, which is contrary to what a lot of people in the Republic think. You know, there's an awful lot of habitat there. There's still good areas of heathland. And what you really needed for a project like this, or what we felt you needed for a project like this, was your hook to bring the people in. And Slieve Gullion is that place, Slieve Gullion Forest Park. It's got everything you need to attract in. You've got a fantastic local community who are really interested in their local nature. You've got the services on site, so you've got the playground, you've got the facilities to be able to run workshops like this in any type of Irish weather, which is generally wet and miserable. But also you have the tree species that we're looking for in a variety of habitats. So, you know, it was, when the idea for this project first came up, you know, it was a really easy sell to say, let's do the first year in the Slieve Gullion, and then we'll move over to the Mourns. And like, the Mourns is incredible, and very much what Josh has already said. You know, you can see why C.S. Lewis was so inspired by it. It's very wild, it's very rugged and absolutely incredible. Some incredible scenery. And then Strangford-le-Cale, you know, it's an unknown, it's a question mark really on the map. So there's huge amount from purely a scientific perspective for us to still discover. And hopefully we'll discover some very large populations of our native herps still surviving, even though, like, Northern Ireland, as well as the rest of the island, is under the same kind of stressors with agricultural intensification, habitat fragmentation, you know, potentially reductions in gene flow, So, you know, a lot of these things still remain unanswered, and like a lot of the questions we get asked is, what's the situation with frogs, or what's the situation with newts? You know, and we don't really know. And even though we only have a small number of species, it's very, very clear very, very quickly when you even try to do any sort of background research that we don't know an awful lot about them, except for where they live. And even then, you know, records are isolated. They've been opportunistic in nature. There's no real trend data. We don't know what the populations are doing over time, how they're responding to climate change or any other type of environmental stressor. So projects like this, where we have the community involved, where you have the scientists there to help the community with questions, you know, it's the perfect example of how you can take what I think would be easily written off as a purely scientific endeavor and make something much more involved with it, where there's something for everybody. And that's really the beauty for it as well. And plus it gives me an excuse to go north of the border and run around the mountains as well. So absolutely incredible. And then you get to meet people like Ryan as well, who's taken the helm and formed his own Northern Irish reptile and amphibian group. You know, so these things can only mean there's a bright future for this type of research in Northern Ireland. And then there's no pressure on me to be trying to be everywhere at all times to do stuff. But it's absolutely incredible. We're very lucky to have the team we have and the advice we get. We're also incredibly lucky to have the funding. So, you know, it's an absolutely incredible project, and I can see it being used, especially by me, as a proof of concept and a case study to other institutions in Ireland, where we could very easily set up something like this if there was a will and a funding stream available. So I think I'll leave it at that, because time's getting away from us and there's way more important people to have their say as well yet. So thanks very much for listening.
Thank you ever so much, Rob, for that contribution. So next up on our list of panelists for talking today, I'm going to pass over to Ryan Boyle, who's really been my partner in crime. I do want to say a huge thank you to Ryan. He has not missed a single event that we've run, and I really couldn't be doing it all without him. So thank you, Ryan, and over to you as the chair of the Amphibian and Reptile Group, Northern Ireland.
Okay, hi folks, thank you very much, Josh. Yes, no, you're stuck with me now for the next couple of years, so I'm sorry about that. So yes, so my name is Ryan Boyle. I'm chair for the Northern Ireland Amphibian Reptile Group. We are a very newly formed sector of ARG UK. We formed literally around the time Josh started the project, and then lockdown hit, so everything just kind of went sideways on us. Unfortunately, so we haven't been as productive as getting ourselves up and going as we would have liked. And that's been one of the benefits, actually, the helping yourself out, Josh, every week is, you know, the project has been very active. And it's one of the most exciting things I actually quite like about it is the fact that it is proactive and it is constantly on the go. So even though the ARG itself has been a bit slow, the fact that the project has been up and going is meant to say that we've been able to kind of establish ourselves with a bit of food and actually, you know, ensure that we are active. As Josh and Rob have been saying, you know, the north here, it kind of, I think, always has a bit of a misconception on like its landscape, its habitats, and kind of, you know, basically just what animals that we have. Our biodiversity probably isn't always fully appreciated or understood. And especially with our herb species, like we only have the 3, but our records are shocking to say the least. Like we do not have a great set of records for them across all the counties. Certain areas have slightly better, and I think that's primarily just due to higher population density. Maybe more people know about them, but really we could be doing a lot better in regards to that. You know, these are our species. You know, this is our land, this is our island, this is our ARG, this is our project. This is, you know, this project is kind of in a lot of ways quite groundbreaking for here. You know, there hasn't been a real great presence in terms of herpetological research or herpetological activity in the north. And as someone, you know, from Belfast and who is, you know, very big in these herps, I keep them at home. I've worked with them for years as a herpetologist. You know, it's quite an exciting time for herpetology in the north here, and the work that Josh is doing, the work that he's got planned, is very exciting to see. It's very exciting to see happen and be talked about and planned, and you know, there actually be traction in getting it up and going. To my knowledge, we haven't anything like this over here before, dealing with our species in the manner that we have and taking the community approach is fantastic. It's going to work a lot better than just, you know, having a couple of us going out running around the hills on a weekend. Actually building up like a public perception that we have these species, lizards in particular. Like, I have people don't believe me. I think I'm making it up. I'm lying because it's not anything bad. It's just they just don't know. Our frogs are everywhere. Our newts are better known, and the lizards. It's like people are, you're mad. No, you're making it up. So having that having that base and having that sort of network of people that are actually going to, you know, work and strive towards promoting these species is fantastic, and I think it's something that we probably might not always fully appreciate until maybe in the second or third year when we actually look back at, you know, where the project started and where it will be then. You know, it's going to be a massive difference, and as Josh has said, there's already been a massive influx of people showing an interest, actually getting out and taking recordings and submitting records, which is fantastic. It's something that maybe doesn't happen regularly enough. So even I can already see a change in, you know, a change in what the project has achieved so far in the short time it has been running. And like I said, as someone who's from here, you know, it's exciting to see. It really is. We have a lot of work going on with our birds and mammals, fish and everything, and the herps have just kind of been overlooked. I feel that that's quite a bit of a sad oversight in a lot of ways. You know, these guys have been here since like the last ice sheet. They've been here well before us. If things all go well, they could well be here after us, as long as we don't destroy things too much. You know, on a wee remote island, you know, near enough in the North Atlantic where you wouldn't expect to find them, there's 3 species for the most part flourishing. You know, that's quite a big thing. It's quite a big thing, at least as far as I'm concerned. And you know, whenever they're in a landscape, we're okay. We might not have much biodiversity, but what we do have is basically a potential predator for it. And they've survived this long. And what, you know, damage has been done. They are susceptible, but they're hanging in there, and they're, you know, they're more adaptable than I think we give them credit for. So having this project here to kind of look at all this and highlight a lot of it is going to be quite exciting. It's going to be quite interesting to see, and I'm very excited to see how it pans out and kind of where it ends up in the coming years. I'm very excited to be a part of it. Very happy and glad to be a part of it. It's not something that happens very often here. It's a very good change of pace. But yeah, no, it's hopefully once the madness of everything kind of calms down a wee bit, we can kind of be a bit more proactive. As Josh will probably tell you, I could talk for hours about my ambitious plans for the ARG, but I'm not going to do that. I'm sure you don't want to be bored to death. But no, I am over the moon that this project has happened and it's come about. I'm very excited to see where it goes. You've done fantastic, big man. You really have. You hit the ground running. And yeah, no, I'm excited to get out again and wreck all around us. Sure, be good crack. No, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan. That was lovely. As always, I appreciate the kind words and support. But I honestly do think that it's the local volunteers who do everything. I'm just a small facilitator. We're now going to have Michelle Baber from the University of Lancashire talk to us from UCLan. So they're helping us with our assessment of the impacts of the project. So over to yourself, Michelle.
Thanks, Josh. Has that unmuted? Yes, there we go. So I haven't prepared a PowerPoint at all. I thought I would just give you an update. Really, we've not yet started the evaluation, so there isn't really anything to talk about other than kind of what we're going to do, what we think we're going to do, and what we hope to do. So. Just to say, we're from the Healthy and Sustainable Settings Unit, which is in the University of Central Lancashire in today sunny old Preston, usually rainy. And a colleague of mine is actually attending the event, but can't make himself visible on the panel screen. So he's agreed to sort of be available for Q&A and chat by text. I think I've got that right. So that's Dr. Alan Farrier, who's part of the team, along with Neil Wilson, Dr. Neil Wilson, who can't be here today. So we are absolutely delighted to have been asked to evaluate this really, really interesting programme, and we already got a sense of everybody's passion before today, and I think this event is really, really illuminating the passion that everybody seems to have for this very complex project as well, I think. So that's really exciting. I'm more excited than I was already. So thank you, Josh, for such an inspiring talk and some fabulous photos and drone footage there. It made me feel like, as a fell walker, I should get my boots on and get out. So that was excellent. So it's really important that projects like this are evaluated, and I guess that's why we've been asked. And you know, we yourselves want to know what's worked. You want to look at what the impacts are, what's worked well, but maybe also what's not worked as well. So we're going to explore these different elements within our evaluation. We're particularly interested in looking at well-being and the nature connectedness side of things, and Josh has done a really, really good presentation there that's picked up a lot of the elements that we really want to look at in that nature connectedness way as well. And I think we're experienced researchers, the team are really experienced in also looking at complexity and complex systems. And I think you've illustrated really well today the complexity of your programme and all the different projects that intersect and the levels of creativity within that. So I think we're experienced in looking at those sorts of things, and I think today's been really helpful for us, I think, to get a real flavour of the types of projects that you're doing. So thank you for that, and we're really looking forward to exploring those further. So we're going to be speaking with lots of your participants, hopefully. We're going to try and capture the perspectives from all those different groups, or a section of all those different groups, over the life of your project. Everybody's talking about the restrictions that COVID is putting upon us, but I think in a way it's almost helpful to us, because we're across the water a little bit, and it gives us that opportunity to work online more closely. I think the online thing has brought everybody together a bit more. So whilst we will probably be doing online questionnaires, we will be doing some online interviews in the short term, with a view to one of the researchers, probably Alan, heading out and speaking to some of your participants in the future. So when any of the guests on the seminar tonight hear from us, hopefully tonight's introduction will make that a little bit easier to engage with us online. So I think that's all I've got to say for now. I just want to thank everybody for inviting us tonight, and to the funders for funding the evaluation. So I think it's really important to do this, and really looking forward to working with everybody. So thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Michelle. I'm really looking forward to the feedback and the knowledge we gain from the evaluation, the work you do, and how that can be used for going forward in the future for other similar projects to develop and expand the ideas and the model system that it could be. Now for a bit I'm really excited about, we're going to start handing over to members of the local community that we've been working with. We're going to start with Anne Ward, who is an ambassador for the local area and has also been an extremely useful, not only volunteer, but contact and introduction for me. She's helped me meet a lot of people in the local community and really start building our volunteer bases and our teams. So over to you, Anne.
Hiya. Hi, Josh. Thanks for inviting me. Can everybody hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, so I'm here actually with a number of different hats tonight, and in terms of being a Ring of Gullion ambassador, this project was just so amazing to enhance our beautiful landscape even further in terms of conservation, preservation of our biodiversity. And I only found out recently, and I keep calling them dragons in the hill because I just love that term, that they actually are like an air filter, helping to you know, cleanse our air, and so their habitats are so important for us. So I hope, as Josh has said, that I've been able to connect you and continue to connect you with other people, particularly those who I've come in contact with who have a particular interest in connecting to nature more deeply. So as an area of special scientific interest, the Ring of Gullion, and an area of outstanding natural beauty, this project is just so important. And I was lucky enough to, when I was with John, I took him up to Saintmann as well. We spotted a lizard that day, and then I went on his training day, which was amazing. And I was with a tiny little boy who was 6, who was amazing. Ryan, I can't remember his name, maybe you can remember. Finn, he was called Finn. And he was just, his observation skills were unbelievable. And I learned that day that ladybirds smell with their feet. We seen butterflies. He spotted a frog, and then we did the pond dipping and seen so many different newts. So it was just amazing, and I would encourage anybody who's not involved to really get involved at all age groups. So important in connecting people with nature, connecting our communities. And with my Exhale hat on, I'm a meditation coach as well and tour guide. And I use the gifts of meditation and the landscape to help people become more connected to the landscape. And just to say that during lockdown, Michelle, I developed an online nature immersion course, 6-week course, and used the nature connection pathways of the National Trust. The evaluation was outstanding, and it was just incredible how nature gave comfort and safety at that time. And I've developed another one for autumn, so I'll share that little link as well. But I think the lockdown and this project was a blessing, because it really gave people the opportunity to slow down, to pause, which this work's all about, and really to help people to observe and take notice of the nature around them. And now with this project, and I'm hoping with Josh, one of the training days, to maybe do a little mindfulness session to help people use their natural resources of their breath, their body and their senses to connect to the landscape, the present moment, and give more of an opportunity to spot these amazing dragons in the hill. So thank you, Josh, and it was fantastic, really inspiring presentation. I'm so delighted you got the music sorted. I have the original on my phone, which I'll send to you. I recorded the guys, Colleen and Porrick, that day for the recording for BBC Ulster. So thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Anne. And people coming from different parts of the community with new ideas like yours, I think it really is what this project is all about. So I'd be really excited in the future about us trying to combine the nature immersion with our training days and using that as a tool to help people slow down and engage in different ways with the world around them. Now I'm going to invite Padraig Carraher to come talk, who's the owner of Bluebell Lane and has supported this project since day one, and is also, as you heard, is a fantastic guitarist and provided that backing music for us. So over to you, Pod.
Josh, how's it going?
Oh, good.
This, I suppose, is my induction into Zoom. I have been a participant on some Zoom meetings, but I never had opened my mouth until now. Josh has come here. I've known Josh now a couple of years from, I suppose, the Red Squirrels and the Pine Martin projects that were been run. And we met initially. We were putting up feeding boxes and den boxes for Pine Martins up around the woodlands that no longer exist now because of the deforestation. And since that, Josh has come to me to use our site, Bluebell Lane, which we recently planted out with 20,000 native trees. And although the trees are only in about 4 years, some of them's 20 foot high now, and you get a real sense of being within a woodland, which is fantastic, because there was a time when they said the red squirrel could go from Crossman's Glen to Slieve Gullion without touching the ground at any stage. So hopefully between myself and Margaret and Kathleen Finnegan, at least they might be able to get the bus to Silverbridge and get from Silverbridge to Slieve Gullion without touching the ground. But the project that Josh is running is fantastic, because it's bringing awareness to not just young people, but to adults alike. including myself. I started this project, it was an idea I had. There was two things I wanted to do in life, and one was to wood turn, and the second was to plant trees. And as the older I got, the more concerned I was about the planting tree bit, because I knew we need to get them in today. Someone said to me, when's the best time to plant trees? And I said, yesterday. And if you can't do it yesterday, do it today. So the opportunity came up. It was actually Darren Rice that informed me of the opportunity to plant out the farm, the 26 acres with woodland. And for that, I have to thank Darren, because we very often go around here and find out things too late. And we always say, oh Jesus, why didn't I hear about that, or why didn't I know about that? And since the Landscape Partnership had begun, they really infiltrated the community, pumping information into them, educating the people, in fact, of what was happening and what was going on. And Josh, your project is no different. It's educating young people and old people, as I said. It's getting them to embrace that opportunity and go out into the wilderness and explore and listen and look and learn how to be quiet. So you can discover all these wee things. And yeah, I have a glamping site here, and just last week I had a little girl who said to me, I found a little newt outside the cottage. And this was incredible, because we were talking about this, and I didn't realise there was newts so far up from the pond. So she has a photograph of it, and she's promised me to send it on to me. So when I get it, I'll forward it on to you, to Josh, and you can see it for yourself. But look, lads, I'm delighted to be able to facilitate some part of this project. And I hope it goes from strength to strength, because it has the benefits. It's obvious what the benefits are, getting people out outside and exploring the wilderness, and, as I say, discovering all these little critters that we don't notice. We don't see them. We're not looking for them, and until you have people that open your eyes, it's great to actually discover that you have that habitat out the back door. So Josh, I wish you the best, and I look forward to welcoming you back here again. And yeah, looking forward to working with you further in the future. And to do with heritage, we've also, should I plug this, Darren? We've also got a round house, an Iron Age round house that has just recently gone out to tender, and hopefully will be starting in October, the start of October. So that is a great opportunity again for young and old to come and learn the skills that's involved with building a genuine Iron Age roundhouse or Celtic roundhouse. And that's due to happen here now in October. So if anyone's interested in learning how to do a bit of thatching or waddle and dough, this is your spot. So keep an eye out. And Josh, thanks again. Thanks very much for inviting me. Thank you.
Thank you ever so much, Pod. You won't be able to keep me away when the roundhouse is being built. It sounds incredible. And it's one of the things I love about going to Bluebell is every time I come back, those trees are just a little bit taller and it's a little bit more wild, and you get a little bit more of an idea of what it's going to be like in 10, 20 years. It's just a really unbelievable spot. So for anyone listening today, if you've ever got a night or a weekend away, get on Google, get on Facebook, Bluebell Glamping Lane, check it out. It's an unbelievable spot. Again, one of my favourite places in Ireland, well worth checking out. And while Pod was talking there, he mentioned Margaret Finnegan, who's one of our partners from Antaba. And I'd like to pass over to Margaret now, who we've been working with and we're planning to do the John Muir Award with. Margaret, are you there? I'll ask to unmute.
Can you hear me now, Josh?
I can indeed.
Yes? You can't see me, no?
No, I can't.
No, I've been lost contact with you a few times, but I could hear mostly everything. So, and it's lovely to be invited along and to listen to all the great stuff that's going on. And just to say to Padraig there, we'll just make sure the bus still runs from Cross to the bridge for these poor squirrels to get as far as here, and hopefully they get from here to you on the treetops. in a few years' time. So Kathleen was over actually with Padraig the other day, staying over there for a couple of nights with her husband, and she was amazed how tall the trees had got. And Padraig's is 4 years old and ours is 2. So I was actually staking up silver birch today that were 10 foot tall. So it is amazing how quickly things grow when they get the chance. Here at Intubber, our name means the well, and we're after a healing well on our farm. And we're delighted to be working along with Josh on delivering the John Muir Award to some of our social farming participants. And I can't tell you how excited they are about it. People with learning disabilities who never got a chance, and they're Googling oak trees and birch trees and great tits and blue tits and all sorts of birds. And we're building hides to go bird watching. We've purchased our viewing scope and some camouflage clothing, and we walk around the woodland and they can identify the trees. They've been 06 after 2 weeks. So they're so excited, and they have their folders and they take their stuff home, their homework. And so we're really looking forward with Josh's input on the lizard side and the reptile side to educate us all about that. And to improve some of the habitats we have. We have a couple of man-made ponds here, and we're going to re-establish native wild planting in those, along with our 12,500 trees. And we're going to plant some more trees. We're going to just basically observe the microhabitat and the macrohabitat over the next few months, and then at the end of it all, our participants will receive their John Muir Award, which is a nationally accredited certificate. So really excited and really delighted to be working with Josh, and your enthusiasm is just brilliant. Here at Intubber, our mission statement is to create an inclusive, safe sanctuary for healing our community. We offer social and educational programs, therapeutic horticulture and social farming to individuals and groups. And Intubber will be a place of belonging where we can nurture our health and well-being and heal and grow together as a community. And obviously, because of COVID, our school kids aren't coming at the moment, but we have several local secondary schools who are keen to do John Muir as well. So they're, as of yesterday, they're still very keen, but they have to wait and see what happens. And as well as our own participants, we will be involved in the schools in that as well. So really, really looking forward to that. Can you hear me okay, Josh?
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you ever so much, Maggie.
Thank you very much. Look forward to seeing you.
Look forward to seeing you again as well, and I can't wait to hear back from John Muir and start getting our plans underway.
Can't wait.
So we've got 2 more of our panelists to hear from, and then we'll be opening up to questions and wrapping up. So I'd like to pass over to Paula Mulkern and Kira Crawley, who are 2 primary school teachers from Mullaghbourne Primary. And I would like just to take a moment to thank them both. They've been so incredibly supportive, and it was one of the things I noticed while working with all the different school groups was how engaged and excitable and how willing and ready their children were to discuss new ideas and talk about things and get things wrong and have a laugh on the way. And I think that is really a symptom and a demonstration of what wonderful teachers and how engaged these 2 are. So a big thank you from me, and over to yourselves.
Thank you very much, Josh. It's fallen to me to do the speaking. I think Kira's on the technical end of it. So as Josh has said, both Kira and I teach in St Mary's, Mullaghbourne. And for anyone who doesn't know where that is, we're just about 10 miles from Newry, off the main road to Crossmaglen. So those squirrels could be passing our way as well. We have just over 300 pupils, and last year during lockdown, last school year during lockdown, all our learning had to go online, and when the opportunity to have Josh join us virtually came along, we jumped at it. And Josh became a regular feature in our P6 year group classes. I was going to start just by showing our school crest because it kind of explains what our school is about. In the background, we have an outline of Slieve Gullion as seen from Mullaghbourne. We gaze up at Slieve Gullion every day. The shamrock in the centre reflects our rich culture, and within each of its leaves we have the elements that make up our school life. We've got our community, our church. It's a partnership with parents and our parish and our wider community, and our aim is to develop a sense of belonging and pride in our pupils. The hands, forming friendships within our own school community, but also with schools and communities from just up the road or over the mountain or indeed across the world. And finally, learning, not just the curriculum as set down by the Department of Education, but the broader curriculum, what's important to our children, their families and the community that we serve. So we believe that it is important for our pupils to have a strong identity, to know who they are, where they come from. And to this end, we've worked closely with local historian Una Walsh for a number of years. Our pupils know about their townlands, their significance, their unique features. They know the stories, songs and poems of the area. And building on this work, we felt that it was the right time for the children to learn more about the unique flora and fauna of the area. They have all watched the David Attenborough programmes, so they know about animals from all over the world and the problems that they are facing with pollution and plastics and the clearing of the rainforests for palm oil. But what do they actually know about the species in our own area and the impact that we are having on our own local environment and the habitats? So when Dragons in the Hills projects came along, we jumped at the chance to tap into Josh's great wealth of knowledge and experience. We were working through quite unusual times, and the ability to have an expert in their field with us in the virtual classroom was a truly amazing experience, not just for the children, but also for us teachers. It emphasised just how the classroom is truly no longer bound by its 4 physical walls, but it's open to anyone to enter from anywhere across the world to share their knowledge and experience with our young people. Our children love to have visitors to the class, someone different to listen to, and Josh, you had a great way with them. If, as sometimes happens, an answer was way off the mark, you always managed to work it around so that the child learned the correct response, but in a way they felt they had been correct and their contribution had been valued. So our sessions with Josh were scheduled weekly for an hour, but most days ran well over this, often by 20 or 30 minutes. Such was the interest and enthusiasm shown by the children and indeed by the many parents who sat in on the sessions. The children, they were fascinated by the knowledge and importantly, Josh's ability to answer their many questions. They loved learning about the animals of the area and hearing about the important data collection and conservation techniques that were being employed through the project. They really enjoyed the pictures and the images of your newt ladder. That was a particular favourite. Each week, Josh had a presentation for them with photographs and he talked his way through those with plenty of opportunities for question and answer sessions. The children were fully engaged throughout the sessions and the fact that they were learning was evident from their recall. Each session started with a recall or a recap on the previous week and they had remembered, they had questions to ask and they built upon their questions. And also at the end, they would leave comments after each session and during their weekly reviews. So it wasn't unusual to see comments like that was really good or that was amazing. In fact, some went so far as to say it was their #1 event in their whole P6 year, their time in the virtual classroom with Josh. Now, looking forward to the future, we were thinking our pupils, they're growing up in a fast moving technological world. It's what they know, and in the future it's where they're most likely going to find their employment. They're going to be in jobs that we haven't even yet thought of, and using technology that hasn't even yet been developed. But it's a powerful tool which was demonstrated with the virtual classroom to enhance the teaching and learning. And we're keen to build on what we achieved during those weeks and to work, Josh, on further projects which would instill a love of and pride in our children in their local area. In recent years, we have introduced coding to our pupils through our participation in international projects, Erasmus, which connects us with schools in Europe, and Collecting Classrooms, which connects us with schools in Nepal. And through those, we have secured funding to train our staff, purchase equipment, and use it in our teaching. So in the picture that you can see is a maze map that we had developed with our school, partner schools in Nepal. The pupils can drive a robot, which is the little blue ball that you can see in the corner, through the maze, or they can build coding blocks to program the robot around. At different locations, you'll see QR codes where they have embedded information in the form of videos or films they have made, photographs they've taken, PowerPoints, narratives, whatever, and they can read them through their mobile devices, whether it's an iPhone or their iPad. Now, we have used this technology for developing maths for local history projects and for international projects around the UN Sustainable Development Goals. And we can see how this would work, Josh, how this would fit nicely into what we've been doing with you. We could create a map perhaps with the life cycle of the frog or the newt on it. We could have QR codes embedded in it with information about the flora and fauna. We could perhaps have a picture of a location like a pond here in the Ring of Gullion, perhaps showing the different levels within the pond and what you might find at the different levels in the pond. We could even dress our robot, which is possible to do. You can dress him up whatever way you'd like. We could dress it up as a newt or a frog and drive it through the pond, and he could have little adventures with the different animals that he meets or the plants that are growing in the pond. The possibilities are endless, and in the past we have been able to access the parents and grandparents into our projects through the pupils, thus getting the whole family involved, getting them out, exploring the outdoors, engaging with the natural world, something that is important for everyone's mental health and particularly at this time. Our next step is really virtual reality technology, and we have secured funding through the North-South Cultural Heritage Fund from the Irish Government for a cross-border project to connect communities. We have a partner school and a partner community in Mulranny, County Mayo. We just need an expert in the field. Josh, is that a little hint if you'd like to help us out with some virtual reality exploration of the amphibians and reptiles of the area? And really, finally, Josh, what we'd like to say is a big thank you. At the end of our year, our school trip was off the cards because of the COVID, and Josh assisted us with footage to include in our virtual school trip, along with Padraig, I have to add. And eventually, when things are more normal, we're looking forward to going on a real world trip with Josh to meet face to face the dragons of the Ring of Gullion. And we'd just like to say thank you to everyone who made it possible for us and our pupils. And I'll leave you with a final comment from one of the P6 Josh fan club. As you can see on the screen, Josh was a big hit with Primary 6. Thank you very much.
Thank you ever so much, Ciara and Paula. It was very heartwarming for myself, and really delightful, and I'm really excited about those ideas in the future. And of course, I look forward to exploring and developing them with you. Yeah, they sound absolutely fantastic. And so just to finish off, we've got Matthew Bushby from Mourns Heritage. Matthew there? Yeah, lovely.
Yeah,
I'm going to pass over to Matthew now. Welcome.
Thanks, Josh. Probably need a Josh fan club in the Mourns then. Is that the next one? We almost got, yeah, so I have to apologise. I cancelled Josh. He was going to come and meet our staff and do a bit of talking to them about what the project's about, and I had to cancel, but storms were keeping us busy, Josh. Apologies for that. The Mourns is the third AOMB within the Newry area, as was explained earlier. And it's great to see that we're doing so well with the records as well. That's excellent. But I think the whole thing was really encouraging project. Great to hear that last presentation and about the enthusiasm of the kids. And it is about getting really skilled engagers out there like yourself, Josh. We've had previous people like that, and it's legwork, you know, it is, but you really tap into the latent interest, and then that translates into the recorders and that sort of thing, which is what we really need. So totally get it. It's worked very well before, and we're really keen for the second phase of this to play a part in the Mourns, as I say, from volunteers to staff and broadly. So that's all I want to say, really. You know, we're looking forward to working with you in more detail.
Lovely. Thank you, Matthew. I look forward to working with you as well, and we'll get out together very soon, I hope. That brings us to a conclusion of tonight's awesome seminar with contributions from all our panelists. If any of the audience members had any questions, you can use your hands up panel and we can invite you to talk with us, or alternatively you can type them in the Q&A. I want to take a moment to thank everybody who came along and watched tonight. We really appreciate your attendance and interest. If you have any interest in joining us further, please do go on Facebook and join the Dragons in the Hills, where we post constant updates. Or if you're not a Facebook person, please do give me an email on josh.twining@arguk.org, and I'll happily add you to our mailing list, which I send out information on all the events we run. And a huge final thank you to all of our panelists, everyone for being here tonight. I want to make a special mention of Angie, who really is the mastermind behind it all. She managed to get away with not saying anything today, but she really is the driving force behind this, and it wouldn't happen without her positivity, encouragement, knowledge, and all the rest. So thank you, Angie, and a final big thank you to our funders. If anyone has any questions, let us know. Otherwise, yeah, great to do this. I really enjoyed tonight, and I hope you enjoyed it even half as much as I did. Can we hear? Yeah.
The crowded streets of Brooklyn seem a long way from my home. The people rushing onward, going to and coming from. You bid them time of day, and they look the other way. And so you end up just like them and talk to no one. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've traveled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in my dreams. The view from my apartment is a junkie's alleyway. My children speak in accents not like mine. My old man's working 2 jobs. I don't see him much these days, and we'd be happy if we only had the time. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've travelled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in my dreams. I hear the hills are occupied by strangers now, and the work keeps getting scarcer every day. It's a hard life when you're forced from home to leave the place you love. Oh, it's a hard life when you're forced to live this way. And where the grass is fresh and green, where the air is pure and clean, where the gentle rivers kiss the mountain streams. And although I've travelled far, the hills of South Armagh are the hills I'm roaming nightly in